We all start from somewhere, and it is the same place. It's the common link that connects us. We all start with zero experience. So I want to take you on a journey back to when I had zero experience and break down my very first property that I bought. I'm going to explain how the deal went down, all the twists and turns that of course went along with it. Then I'm going to hop up on the whiteboard over here and I'm going to show you the actual numbers after I talk through them. This is crazy, but today I own about $50 million worth of rental properties. But 10 years ago in 2014, I owned zero rental properties, had no idea what the hell I was doing. Let's break down that very first deal, and at the end of this video, I am going to show you the property because I still own it today, how much it's worth, how much equity I have, and how much I've cash flowed over the past 10 years. Like this video if you appreciate someone giving you actual, actionable content and not just trying to shove a course down your throat. All right, let's go back to 2014. Who was I? I had been married for a couple years. I didn't have any kids. I was starting to make decent money at my job, and I decided to start investing in real estate. My goal was to buy one rental property a year for 10 years, and after 10 years start to pay them down, which seemed like an astronomical goal at the time. However, there was one issue. I didn't have enough money to put down on a rental property, so not knowing what I know now, I thought I'm gonna have to do a flip, buy a property, fix it up, and sell it, and take that profit and put 20% down, which is all I knew at the time. And I knew you could borrow money from people to flip properties. I remember seeing Flip or Flop on HGTV where Tarek would borrow money from, I think, a rich lawyer or a rich buddy and split the profits with him. So I knew you could borrow money to flip, but I didn't know anything that I'm getting ready to tell you in this video. So that's what I did. I looked at about 35 properties before I got my very first one under contract. I actually ended up buying it on the MLS. It was a pre-foreclosure bank-owned property. Back then, you could buy a decent amount of them, and today you can a little bit. They're kind of few and far between, but back then they were pretty common. And after 6 months of talking with people at an endless rate, I ended up finally securing a private lender who gave me $100,000 line of credit, meaning I had up to $100,000 of his money that I could use to buy and fix up a property. And then that day came. The property was listed for $85,000 on the MLS. It needed about $40,000 worth of work, or that's what I thought it needed. So I decided, being the smart guy that I am, let's get it for $77,000 and figure out how to squeeze a $40,000 budget into about a $20,000 budget. So that's what we did. We closed on the property, and I did as much of the work as I could to try and lower that budget to stay under that $100,000 mark that my private lender said he would give me. I did things like do the demo, did the landscaping, did the painting, did some flooring and trim work that looked really bad, but it was all that I could do to keep the budget under that $100,000 mark. And as I was doing that, I actually went to our local meetup here in St. Louis, and I spoke with a local investor and explained what I was doing. And he said, "Is your goal to own rental properties?" And I was like, "Of course, that's my goal. I want to buy as many rental properties as I can to create wealth and eventually supplement my income so I can quit my job and be financially free." He loved that plan, and he ended up telling me about the BRRRR Method, which is what I'm going to show you. I'm going to use this property, the exact numbers on the whiteboard here in a few minutes, but he told me about that and about a cash out refinance. I could take this property, tap into the equity, get a loan from a bank, and pay back my lender plus interest without even having to sell the property and having a bank note on it. That didn't make sense. I promise you it's going to hear in a couple minutes. As we worked through the project, I remember getting really excited because I felt like I was figuring out a hack to the matrix, a hack to the system. If this really worked, I could buy rental properties using none of my own money. So why would I have to stop at 10? Why couldn't I do 10 a year or 10 a month or 10 a week like we do now? If you understand the main point of leverage, which I started to, it can completely open up your mind, your wallet, your net worth, because leverage is the name of the game. If you don't have to use your own money, why would you stop? Quick note, we felt like we knew what we were doing, but we didn't. I remember Lucas, my business partner, going in the attic for the very first time he had ever been in an attic. He was probably 24, 25 years old. He got up on the attic, and if you've ever been in an attic, you know there's ceiling trusses that drywall is screwed to. Well, he didn't know that, so he ended up stepping on the drywall, the ceiling, and not the actual trusses, and he fell through, caught himself, and ended up tearing his meniscus disc, which is not funny, but it's kind of funny because I had a picture, because I wasn't there, of him hanging through the ceiling, which is one of those things that happens when you get outside your comfort zone and you do something you didn't know how to do it, and you learn it along the way. Now, hopefully you're not going to fall through a ceiling, but if you've invested before, if you're going to invest, things like that are going to happen. All right, before I tell you the numbers and how this all broke down, let's head up to the whiteboard. I'll catch you up to where we are now through the BRRRR method, and then I will show you what it appraised for and how the deal did not work at all, and explain how we still own it today. All right, so here's that BRRRR method that I mentioned earlier. Let's walk through it. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and I changed this to systemize. It used to mean repeat. Not gonna go through that now. Let's go through the real numbers, then I'll explain how this whole thing shook out. So we ended up buying the property, as I told you earlier, for $77,000 with a private lender's money. Now it needed 40 grand, and we half-assed ended up putting about $22,000, $23,000 into the deal. So we had $100,000 almost exactly. I think it was like $99,500 and something of our private lender's money in the deal, and we felt like we were bulletproof. The next thing we did was we got the property rented, and this property actually rented, I remember, because it's our very first property, this property actually rented for $1,250 a month. So everything was working out perfectly. Now, this is that cash out refinance that investor that I talked about that we met at the meetup earlier explained to me. So we got the property appraised, and it appraised for $125,000. So the bank that we worked with, after having 20 banks tell us no, gave us a loan for 80% of that. So they gave us a loan for $100,000. Yay, right? Perfect. We got our money back, and now we give it back to the private lender. He's happy, right? Wrong. He gave us $100,000 expecting $104,000 back. It was about a 6-month project. We gave him 8% interest, so he was supposed to get $104,000. That did not work out, and honestly, we didn't have the money. So fortunately for us, the 6-month process, we figured out how to get another deal under contract, and we had it under contract, and we took the private lender to the deal, explained what happened here, explained the numbers on this new deal, and he was comfortable letting us roll the interest into the next deal because it was a home run deal. There was a ton of equity in the deal, and that property really didn't need much work. However, he did raise the interest rates from 8 to 12%, so we owed him a little bit more money. So instead of $4K, we now owed him $6,000 just on this deal, plus 12% on the new deal that we had under contract. But it ended up all working out. Maybe I'll do a video on that other project here in the future, but we ended up actually taking home about 10 grand. That's how good of a deal that was. And that's one of the beautiful lessons about working with private money lenders. And boom, after a lot of trial and error and falling through a ceiling and not running our numbers correctly and doing a ton of really kind of shoddy work ourselves, we owned a rental property using none of our own money. And let me explain what that property is worth today and how much cash flow we've had during that process. So back then, in 2014, which this is one of the beautiful things about real estate I love talking about, the property was worth 125 grand and we owed 100. So we had 25 grand of equity in that one house that we bought using none of our own money. Now, of course, we had loans and all those things, but that was kind of a cool thing. My net worth, you know, I own 50% of it. I have a business partner, went up $12,500. Now, today, I just went and looked at all the numbers before this video. 2024, the property is actually worth, it hasn't quite doubled yet, is worth, I think, conservatively $240,000. Now, the note has been paid down by the tenant to about $70,000. So this one rental property in 10 short, long years, however you want to look at it, now gives me $140K in equity. And if I owned it myself, that's how much equity I would have. That is actually slightly more than the average IRA at the age of retirement, which is crazy to think about. People pay into this Roth IRA and they love it, but they can't touch it until they're 60 years old, 59 and a half, wherever the hell it is. They can't touch it. And I did what they do in about 40 years, in 10 years, and it's tax-free because it's debt, because real estate does what it does. I call it the passive wealth trifecta. Properties go up in value over time. Yes, they fluctuate, but overall real estate goes up in value. It's as proven as anything. Somebody else, the tenant in this case, is paying down the mortgage. So you're getting a double whammy, all in your favor, plus you get tax-free cash flow with all the tax benefits that come along with real estate. Speaking of cash flow, I went back and looked, and the property in 10 years, we've had 2 tenants. So very little move-outs, and we've been able to collect a good amount. Now, we were cash flowing about $200 a month right when we bought it. We've had to put some money into it. Now we're cash flowing about $300 a month. But I looked on average after the expenses, after vacancy and everything, we have averaged $200, like slightly over, like $202, but let's keep it simple for my brain, $200 per month over the past 10 years. So if you do the math on that, $200 times 12 months is going to be $2,400 a year times 10 years. So we have cash flow $24,000 net cash flow, tax-free, on this one property that we bought using none of our own money. And this is a beautiful thing that you can do as many times as you want. There's no limit to how many times you can do this. So I think you're starting to hopefully understand and see the power of just one rental property, because guess what? 10 years from now, it's probably going to be almost a $500,000 property, and that's almost going to be paid off. And you can do this 5 times and retire a little bit earlier. Shoot, you can do this 25 times and probably retire in the next 5 to 10 years, because what real estate does. If you'd like to learn how to do that, check the description. I have an absolutely free training that will walk you through it. Now, of course, after that training, you can book a call with my team. But like I said earlier, I'm not trying to shove a mentorship down your throat. I want to give you as much as I can here, give you an opportunity to watch a free training. And if you want to, you can learn more about my community, my mentorship that has almost 2,000 people in it now, all around the country, that are all creating massive wealth every single day, following our proven systems and learning from our mistakes. So if you want to learn real estate and dig in and get some security in this extremely insecure time we live in, with all these politicians and all these liars and all this inflation and everything, if you want some financial security, I don't think there's a better place for you to learn for free than here on this channel. So make sure to subscribe, and again, hit that notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Ask any questions you have in the comments below and I will answer them.